What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about sleeves. It's my latest single release at the time of this recording, and it comes with a prelude called Memoria. I want to talk a bit about the song itself, right? The meaning behind the song, but also really a deep inside scoop of behind the scenes, how I made the strings sound the way they did, how I orchestrated them, how I made the piano sound the way it did, and so forth. So let's dive in to Sleeves and Memoria. So to begin, the songs actually started from the self-portrait. So my wife, Maria, wanted a new self-portrait, and she has this cool kind of camera. You can see at the bottom of her coat there, kind of blurs the light refraction. I think that's the word. I'm not a photographer, but this photo is, I took this photo. She just told me what to do. And it was striking to me. And I think because it captures her so well. She's very much a melancholic. She sees beauty in things that most other people wouldn't see as beautiful, you know, maybe like a dead flower or just a field and a barn, right? A lot of people just kind of look past that, but she sees beauty in everything. And so this struck me. And so I texted her that asked her, like, if you wrote words to this, like, what would it look like? She wrote like a little 4-line poem that I thought was just astoundingly good. And I said, well, I have to make this into a song, right? So that's the origin of Sleeves. It's very much a song about self-reflection and, you know, maybe you're holding on to memories or scars or things subconsciously that you kind of carry with you, you know, that maybe you're struggling to let go of. Or in the case of, let's say, physical scars, you know, you can't quite get rid of those, but you sort of learn to live with them. So that's sort of the origin point of Sleeves. I found the minimalist lyrics to be very powerful, that I also wanted to make sure that the music itself was minimal. I felt it would be a bit too much if I went the classic Tony route and made everything with gigantic orchestra here. So I stuck with string orchestra and piano, literally nothing else other than a few mixing effects like reverb and delay for my voice. Now, I'm not going to play the whole songs in this video, so if you want to check those out, they're in the description below. But let's start with Memoria, the prelude. So this beginning, oh man, there's something with cello, with these open yum bum ba. Cello is so good at that. And don't be alarmed about this note being so close in proximity. This is actually the double bass. It sounds an octave below using Cinematic Studio strings here. So if you're looking at this, be like, why is the cello like right next to the double bass? Don't worry, this is actually down here. There's something about that open cello arpeggiation, these chords that they just eat the heart, right? So this one here especially, I think there's from this low C, it's the low open C string. Yeah, I love that open C string on the cello. It's amazing. I wanted to create a sense of longing. You know, in Latin, memoria, memory, remembrance, right? So that idea, I wanted to kind of capture that musically. So there's this very straightforward, very simple, you know, chords, a little bit of counterpoint, inner counterpoint here, you know, kind of these moving lines to keep momentum going. But if you zoom out, right? So take a look at the very beginning here. It kind of starts closely written together and then it expands, right? So if I could literally draw an arrow, kind of goes up the register and as simultaneously the lower strings are going down. And I also introduce, you know, DeVisi kind of inner voices. We'll get there. But that's the trajectory, starting kind of small and widening and thickening the orchestration out to create a lush, big sound. Okay, so let's dive into why this buildup feels like a buildup. So we're gonna break this down into a few chunks. Number one, for those of you who maybe don't make music, these little hills and valleys down here, when you're dealing with virtual instruments like this, as much as I wanted to live record this one, I'm saving up to live record something, wink, wink, right? It's not cheap to record an orchestra, but it's coming, it's coming. Basically, these lines and these valleys, there's two things happening simultaneously. This mod wheel here, determines sort of the expression of a string instrument. So if I were to just even play a single note here on the violins, I have my mod wheel over here on my keyboard. Right? So the mod wheel determines that dynamic level, piano to forte. Okay, so if you make music, well, you already know the drill here. Now, this expression module, CC11, this is kind of getting technical, but these lines down here are almost like an internal volume knob. I think a lot of times, at least when I first started making music like this, I would only use this mod wheel, right? Because for instruments like Cinematic Studio Strings, which I'm using, it has a wide dynamic range. But for a lot of other instruments, or developers, it's kind of compressed, right? So the loudest expression to the softest expression, kind of not that different. So what I find is that this CC11, this expression wheel, can help kind of create those microdynamics, right? What I like to call microdynamics. So in between, like it's like piano and a half or mezzo piano and a half. This just gives it a bit more life, a bit more authenticity in terms of how these instruments play back. So I kind of mimic the mod wheel, not quite as much, not huge hills and valleys, but just a little hills and valleys to give it a bit more life. So there's that component that kind of helps this build up before we get to this note here. You can almost see this grow, like the tops of these peaks are getting higher and higher and higher. Then there are the internal lines. If I take away the melody of everything there and I just play these internal lines, this is what it sounds like. So there's all this yada da 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 da. It just there's these eighth note propulsions, right? That's kind of, this is what they would call counterpoint, right? So rather than just having 1, 2, change the note, which is fine in some contexts, not gonna lie, that's totally good. When you want to create momentum, you do this, right? Where you have all these interwoven da da da, passing it around the instruments. So I'm passing it basically between half of the cellos and then the viola section, which is the VC, which kind of, again, it creates this inner motion, right? It's not the star of the show. It's just creating motion, internal motion. A little bit of a portamento on that high note here, like so. Just to give it a bit of that extra special sauce, right? You can see it's like this, it's building upward and then it's coming back down in terms of dynamic. And then simultaneously, the orchestration's thickening out and then coming back together. Let's talk about these chords, right? Again, it's a parallel triad, but with open voicing. So when you look at a piano, for example, like you're playing a chord, C, E, G, it's pretty close together. If you just right in the middle, thumb, middle finger, pinky, real closely written. This is what they would call open voicing. Take away the bass line here. Right, and having that on top of a pedal note, so it's just a sustained pitch right on an E. So this is E minor. Creates that sense of tension, a bit of dissonance, So again, when you're dealing with things like scars and memories and perhaps things you don't want to hold on to, you need a bit of that, like just a little bit of that tension, right? What I wanted this to be was really just a segue into sleeves, the vocal part of the song, then kicks it off with the piano. And this is the piano that I used, which is my all-time favorite. Native Instruments Noir. It's by far, I use this piano practically in every, like no joke, like in everything I do at this point.
Can't erase memories embedded into sleeves.
Pay attention to that melody, right? So, so So take away the words for a second. Take away all the various syllables in there, but just the notes, just the arc of the melody. Da, 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 dum. Right? Comes back. It's very important. Didn't want the world to know, but it's all there for show, right? Especially if it's like scars, right? Can't erase memories embedded into sleeves, right? There's a lot of ambiguity here and a bit of self-interpretation depending, but the point was mostly to say, I didn't want the world to know about any of this, but it's coming out either in scars, in how I behave, in my actions, and how I think, and how I speak and say. That was sort of the driving force between the lyrics and how do I want the music to sound. It's like just this kind of, I wish I didn't have to carry this.
Didn't want the world to know, but it's all there for show. Can't erase memories embedded into sleep.
I'm gonna pause it there for a second. So, forgive me for being getting a little emotional, but I think this song is just so personal. And I'm not going to go into exact details, but sort of things that my wife and I have experienced together, things, the crosses we've carried together, the scars we carry, the wounds we carry, and how at times that has been just a challenge for the two of us. It's the kind of thing that I think together we don't want people to feel alone, whether as married couples or as individuals, like that we all have stuff we carry. And I think we live in a world today that likes to shove the stuff we carry down. Like, we'll just forget about it. And then we can distract ourselves with TikTok and YouTube and Netflix and video games and all that stuff. And I work in the video game industry. Like, I make music for games. So I have nothing against these forms of entertainment at all. But I think it's so easy. It's easier now than ever today to just put aside and forget about, or at least shove down so far that you don't have to deal with it, the stuff we carry. And so when I was making this, it's like, all I want is for someone to hear this. I will have done my job if someone hears this and let some of that baggage out and get it out of their body where it should go. You don't want to hold on to the things that are hurting you from the inside. That's why I think music is so powerful and why I make music like this, because not only does it help me and it helps my wife, but it has the possibility and potential to help other people. That's all I have to say about that. So let's go into the climax then of this track.
Into sleep.
So the strings here, as I mentioned, reflect the verse, but they have these sort of, just so it's not just static notes kind of sustaining, and they have these kind of passing notes, bum, bum, ba-da-da, bum, ba-da-dum. The cello has sort of this call and response. It's almost like it is an imitation. So violin 1 and violin 2 will go bum, bum, ba-da-dum, and then you'll hear the cello go bum, ba-da-dum, or it's in its respective notes. Here, check this out. So I'm playing just the violins and high cello. And then they come together over the span of 2 octaves, which high cello just, again, it's one of those things that just pulls at the heartstrings, especially in big, lush music like this. There's also this moment here, this high viola. It's very subtle. But it's just enough to give it a little bit of that extra sparkle. Right?
And so it came to be that I'd look for you, but only find me.
Let's talk about the vocals there. I don't often talk about vocal production stuff, but we're going to today because I had the pleasure of mixing this one. It's It's a little trick. Pay attention to just the piano and the vocals.
And so it came to be.
Right in that spot. It's right in that silence. Put on headphones if you're not already, because it's very, very subtle, but it helps with, again, forward momentum.
And so it came to be.
It's a little bit of a vocal delay right here. It's not very much. I'm actually going to get rid of the piano. And it's pretty filtered. If I turn it way up, you'll actually hear. I'm going to turn it way up so it's exaggerated.
And so it came to be.
A little bit more noticeable there. And what I do with the delay is I actually start it higher and slowly decrease it as we move away from the thick strings, right? So this is the delay. This is how much I'm sending to the delay. It's going down. It's not by a lot, but it's just enough to like kind of bring us back to a bit more intimate and less like in a bigger hall. It's very, very subtle.
And so it came to be that I'd look for you, but only find me.
The very, very last chord I left intentionally open, right? So what do I mean by that? So there's no third of the chord, right? So in E minor, you'd have E, G, B, or if it was E major, E, G sharp, B. This is just E, B, E, B, E, B, E, B, E, right? It's just a bunch of E's and B's. There's no third determining quality because I felt that, let's say, finding yourself, and so it came to be that I'd look for you, but only find me, that if you find more about yourself through the baggage, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And so if I made it minor, it would end like, ooh, this is bleak. If I ended it major, it'd be like, this is oddly hopeful. So I'm just like, let's just leave it nice and neutral. Right? So there we have it. There's a bit of behind the scenes with sleeves. If you have any questions about the mix of this, like how I mixed any of this, please let me know in the comments. A lot of my kind of behind the songs are a bit more of the orchestration and the meaning, but I have a lot of people, especially through ThinkSpace where I tutor orchestration. There's a lot of questions about the mix sometimes. This channel here is primarily a I make music channel, right? And I show you how I made the music channel. When it comes to mixing, that's also a big topic, and I'm not opposed to having content that's really devoted to that, especially orchestral music. Let me know if that sounds interesting. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was insightful and gave you a little bit of what goes into making music like this and a bit of why. And stay tuned for more music, more behind the songs, and take care.